Oh man, this one makes me laugh. Hey guys, worst luck I ever got for my wife. She finally showed up for the first time. We're playing a men's league game at 10 o'clock. Last game of the year, a guy cross-checked one of our players and made a stomping motion. All I see is the motion. I go red, broke the guy's nose with a punch, went sideways. Long skate off the ice. I see her shaking her head and the death glare still haunts me. Oh,
that's my house.
Oh man, like I'll be honest, most guys, you don't want your wife or girlfriend to come to your men's league game because you just get mercifully ripped in their locker room.
No, I always say, whose wife is here today? Whose girlfriend? And one guy put his hand up, right? You're like, oh, of course, new relationship. Like,
oh yeah, that's where you can usually tell, right?
Oh yeah,
it's either they've been married a long time and the guy's been begging his wife to watch him once, right, or it's a new relationship. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'll come watch you, sure. Oh, classic. And you see the guy's like, he's trying the hardest he's ever tried in the last 3 years. He's back-checking. Yeah. Once they're back, that's when you know. Usually if the buddy's back-checking, you're like, hey, look in the crowd. Is someone here? Someone here? Who are you trying to impress? Because that's rare. Unless it's a playoff game. So, good stuff. Good stuff. Let's get to Struds On now, brought to you by Qualico. Actually, no, we won't. Geez, it's Thursday. I thought it was Friday. Getting my days mixed up. I feel like it. Let's get to the racing report, brought to you by CanTorque. They have so many products. Just like I have so much on my mind, sometimes I need to go to the website, figure out what it is. Go to CanTorque.com, check out the new selection to see everything they've been up to, and of course, lots of racing stuff to go. We got to get through it quickly. I want to get to this one first, Connor or Colin. Anheuser-Busch has made, is it $10 million? Is it $10 million to every female driver in NASCAR over the age of 21? Or is it 10,000? Did I read it right? Did I miss a zero?
10 million is the right number. It's supposed to be available to every female driver. Now, not every female gets 10 million. The fund is dispersed over the next 3 years. So roughly 3.3 million per year. And there's not a lot of detail on how that program works. They're calling it Accelerate Her. It's a great initiative because obviously, females are underrepresented. And I can already hear people talking about, how everyone needs money and all the rest of it. But, I've raced against women for, the better part of a decade in go-karts. And I can tell you that, I'm quite proud to talk about when I get my ass kicked by, 16-year-old Devin Gellings or, Whitney, Stevenson back in the day, who was, she beat all of us. She was our series champion in DD2 a couple of years ago. Women, female racers can do absolutely anything that a male racer can, but for some reason, the percentages just don't line up like they do with society. So anything to get more, the end result is more female racers means more female fans, which makes racing better, plain and simple.
What about Danica Patrick? Is she involved at all with teams or promoting the sport at all for the ladies?
Not really anymore. I mean, she's come back and done some broadcasting. She was part of the broadcast team at the Indy 500 last year, but largely she's moved to her own, enterprises. She's got wine vineyards and, some health food related products and, stuff like that. So not too active in racing anymore, but I'm sure she'll probably be back for the 500.
Now, NASCAR's new TV deal, pretty big deal. 65% is going to go to the tracks to make sure that they're upgraded and everything. 25% goes to the teams, and 10% goes to NASCAR. Is that pretty standard? Was that close to what the previous contract breakdown was like?
Well, this is the existing one, and they're getting ready to renegotiate. I think it's for 2023, maybe it's 24. But really interesting that's how the money breaks down out of the TV contract. That so much of the funds go to the tracks, which to me takes a lot of the incentive for the tracks to sell tickets, because you're going to be getting a chunk. Now at the same time, 65% goes to all the tracks, so each individual track receives a much smaller amount. The teams get a chunk of it. Talked about this a little bit last year. Brad Keselowski mentioned that they get a lot of fan comment about why they don't have so many merchandise trailers. And that's kind of the side effect of what's going on, is that for these guys to put their merchandise trailers at the racetracks, they've got to pay to have the thing there. And the rates that some of the tracks are charging for these guys to put their merchandise haulers is just kind of, extravagant. It's exorbitant. So a lot of drivers just choose not to haul their stuff down there. Hopefully with the new deals, and hopefully there can be a little bit more give and take between all parties involved, because it's one of the coolest things you can see. I mean, having been to, the Daytona 500, when I ended up making at least a complete lap of the outside of the track, and you didn't go anywhere without seeing somebody's merchandise hauler. I mean, back in those days, it was all Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jeff Gordon were the two big merchandise people, but you couldn't go anywhere without being able to buy a t-shirt or a die cast or what have you. So it's a really good addition to the track. It really gives some it lets the fans know where they're at, that's for sure.
Now the NASCAR season kicks off with the Daytona 500 this weekend. A, do you like that race comes first? And B, what can we expect from for fireworks this weekend?
It's odd. I mean, this is how NASCAR's been built. So, questioning the order that they have their biggest race first is definitely unique. The setup this week, obviously goes a lot further than what we see at any other race. I mean, they qualified last night. Just over an hour from now, the dual races go, which the duals are very, probably more important this year than they've ever been. Brand new car, brand new technology. Nobody's really got a good idea how these cars are going to race in the draft. So the argument's always been, for the people who win the poll. That was last night. So the Hendrick cars are starting 1-2 with Kyle Larson and I think Alex Bowman. I can't really remember. Their positions are locked. Historically, when you get into the dual races, you've got a super high chance of crashing. But this year specifically, with the brand new car, there's a lot of part shortages, and there are teams at the 500 who don't have a backup car. They just simply have to have their car in one piece. So the racing, I think, this year compared to most years is going to be quite civilized. At least I hope so. I'm not a big fan of the crashing and these big one. There's no way that they're going to get through the weekend without some kind of contact. But it'll be really interesting. I'll definitely be watching tonight. And and then we've got a lot of Canadian content with Jacques Villeneuve is qualified for the 500, and we got a couple others that are going to be playing along through the weekend.
Colin Levinson joins us in the CanTorque Racing Report. Well, interesting that Michael Masi, we talked about this last week, Colin, and you kind of predicted that you thought, hey, you know what, Masi might be out, and that might be unfair because he didn't have a ton of experience. So he got the job when he got forced into it a little bit earlier because of a death. What are they going to do now? Getting rid of Michael Masi, it kind of looks like that's the easy choice here. Oh, somebody's got to be the scapegoat for what happened, so we're going to make it him. But isn't this a concern because now his replacement likely will have less experience than him?
Well, yeah, the guys that they've not, it's really a weird thing because they got rid of Masi. So basically they're saying that, they're acknowledging that he made a mistake, which is fine. He did make a mistake in the way that the rules were applied. But what they've done is they're replacing them with two people. So in this year, there's going to be alternating race directors. Now, whether it's every second race or what have you, but there's going to be two people to split the role. So they've kind of taken that burden and divided it in half. Plus, they've added basically a virtual race control. So somewhere in an FIA office, there's going to be a group of officials that are going to be watching as well. So when there's a major decision, when there's something that needs clarification, there's going to be rules officials outside of the actual race control at the racetrack to do that. So they've said basically that Masi made a mistake, but they've also said that the system kind of led to the mistake. In the release, this is all coming out today. They didn't cite any reason for Masi to be released. They just said that he's going to be out as race director. They're going to move him into a safety role, assuming he accepts the safety role, and that's it. They haven't really said anything else. So, um, but we've obviously been waiting for this to kind of shake down. It's very, very, very interesting timing because um, Mercedes has been teasing that, and putting pictures up of Lewis Hamilton with George Russell. They posted a picture of him in his suit, but they haven't actually said that he's coming back. And Hamilton is scheduled to be part of the Mercedes car release tomorrow. I At this point, it would be 99 point whatever percent certain that Hamilton will be back. But I think they've waited for you know this Massey didn't fall on his sword, but waiting for someone to say that yes, the way things played out last year wasn't right, and I think that's going to be the catalyst to finally getting a green light for the 7-time champ to come back.
How close are teams getting now to get a chance to check out these new cars and what they're all going to be running like? Is that going to be just the media day the first time?
Yeah, I mean, so I think 3, 4, 5 teams have already released their cars, and once they do their release, they're allowed what's called a media day. So the media day is where they get out to whatever their local racetrack. Most of them are at Silverstone, but some will be elsewhere, where they can put the car on the track, and it's really the first time that they check all the systems. They're not going to be running at speed. They're not going to really be pushing during these things. They actually have they use this for local media, the broadcasters, to be able to capture on track action. They do a lot of staged type shoots and videos and things like that. But these are the first, to make sure that, you're not puking engine oil all over the place, and that the gearbox works, and all the telemetry's sending back all the data that you're expecting. So these are the first tests, and then in a week or so they're going to be at Barcelona, which is a formal 2 or 3 day test before heading to Bahrain to do the second test. What was really crazy is McLaren, I think it was McLaren, I got to get this right, but McLaren is already planning an upgrade to the car that they haven't had on track before the first race. So they know that just like in NASCAR where parts are in short supply, they know that what they put on the track early is not going to be optimal until they get some on track time, until they see what the cars work like in traffic and things like that. So they're already planning their first upgrade, and they haven't actually been on track yet. So there's going to be a lot going on between the new car in NASCAR and the new car in F1 for sure.
How much different is this new car in F1? Like, I know we've talked about the salary cap and everything, but how much different do you think this car this year is going to be to last year?
Entirely. Aside from, the engines are largely the same. There's different, I think they're harvesting energy differently in the hybrid system, the energy storage system, but the configuration of the bodies, the way the aerodynamics work, it's absolutely a new entity. There's nothing that will transfer from the old car to the new car, and again, in simple terms, this car gets the majority of its downforce from ground effect. So this car kind of is more prone to suck to the ground, where the old car had to get pushed to the ground, which maybe sounds the same, but the way that the old car got downforce was through the wings, where this car gets a lot of its downforce from the under tray, and the way that it moves air under the car actually pulls the car to the ground. So like the ability for cars to be able to follow is going to be, if everything works the way they hope and the way they've designed, we're going to see a lot better racing this year.
Do you think is the gap going to narrow between Red Bull and Mercedes and everybody else, or is it still going to be Red Bull, Mercedes on level 1 and everybody else maybe level 2 and 3?
I think we're going to see the field a lot tighter across the board. I think we're going to have a surprise in that, maybe a Haas car, maybe a Williams car that was, way at the back. They're going to be running more in the front. This should help Ferrari, come back. But, these teams are Red Bull in the last week, just over a week, have announced yearly sponsorships in excess of $150 million, and two sponsors. One is supposed to be $100 million a year. The second is $50 million a year. That's beyond the salary cap in just two sponsors. So Red Bull is still going to have the ability. They're still going to have money. They can't spend all that though. That's the trick, is that every penny is documented, but everyone's going to be spending on the same level. Everyone, should be able to implement technology at a little higher level. So, I mean, it's going to be closer, but I still think the Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari are likely going to be the top three. But, that's, again, we say it so many times, that's the beauty of racing, is we just don't know until we get there.
Well, we look forward to it, man. I know also for those who are fans, Drive to Survive Season 4 will be released March 11th. And how many of us just want to fast forward to the last episode to see how they handle the last race?
Well, that's the beauty of Netflix. You can start with the last episode and then stream backwards. Yeah. But no, it's going to be great. I mean, they're doing it right 1 week before the first race. So, they're going to get everyone, everyone's going to be tuned in from basically now on with the test set schedules, the car releases. There's going to be just a ton of drops coming here in the next little bit. So yeah, glad racing's back.
We look forward to it. Colin, have a great day, my man. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Sounds good.
Yeah, or Friday, like I thought it was today. That was the Racing Report, brought to you by.
Thanks, Colin.